Okay, welcome back, Lonely Lake Monster. Um, as we recall, on Friday, we found out that the lake monster that Pearl and Ben were watching, they touched it, they watched it, they thought it looked kind of graceful until it picked Ben right up into the air. Chapter 12, Boy Napped. "Stop!" Pearl ordered, but the creature didn't obey. Ben kicked his legs. "Put me down!" he hollered, pounding the green snout with his fists. "Jump!" Pearl called. "Jump into the water!" "I can't jump! He won't let me go!" He pounded some more. "Help! Help!" Pearl shielded her eyes from the sun, watching helplessly as Ben rose higher and higher into the air. How exactly do you stop a lake monster, or any monster for that matter, from taking your friend? It was a terrible turn of events. Ben was going to get eaten, and it was all her fault. He wanted to stay inside the hospital. He wanted to finish clipping the Sasquatch's toenails, but she had insisted that they go outside. "Hey!" she screamed with all her might. "You bring him back! Bring him back right now!" But Ben just got smaller and smaller as the monster straightened his neck. Dangling far above the water, Ben stopped struggling and peered down at Pearl, his eyes wide with fear. Then, as quickly as it had scooped him up, the creature set Ben on the little island. It proceeded to rip some small pine needles from a tree and returned to chewing it as if deep in thought. The island wasn't that far away. Pearl guessed she could swim to its beach in only just a few moments. "Ben," she called from one end of the dock, "can you hear me?" "Yes," he answered as he scrambled to his feet. He hurried to the edge of the beach. "How am I going to get off this island?" His voice carried easily across the water. "Maybe the lake monster will bring you back," she suggested, hopefully, though the creature seemed to have forgotten all about Ben. "No way," Ben said, shaking his head violently. "I am not doing that again." Pearl looked around. No one seemed to have noticed all the commotion. There was a possibility that they still might not get into trouble. "Swim!" she said, mimicking the swimmer's stroke. "Hurry!" "Swim?" Ben looked down at his lab coat and jeans, as if he were worried about ruining them. "I think you should go get Mr. Tabby. He might have a boat or something like that." "If I go get Mr. Tabby, then we'll be fired for sure." Pearl stomped her foot. "Come on! You can do this! Swim!" Ben appeared to have accepted Pearl's logic because he took his shoes off, tied the laces together, and slung them over his shoulder. He tucked his socks into his pants pocket and stepped into the shallows. The lake monster stopped chewing. As Ben waded up to his ankles, the monster cocked its head. "It's cold," Ben announced. "Really, really cold." "Hurry!" He gritted his teeth. Ben waded deeper into the water and deeper. The lake monster grabbed him around the waist and plopped him back on the island. Ben was quick to respond. Like a boxer, he leaped to his feet, and then he ducked beneath the monster's neck and stumbled into the water. Splashing, he made it up to his knees before the monster grabbed him again and deposited him on the sand. They repeated this 2 more times. The monster smiled as if playing a game of fetch, but Ben didn't smile. He waved his fist and stared at the basketball-sized eyes. "Let me go!" he yelled. After one more unsuccessful escape attempt, Ben sank into the sand and sat, his shoulders hunched with defeat. "What am I supposed to do now?" he called. "I don't know," Pearl admitted, having never been in this particular situation. She watched the goings-on with a mixture of fascination and horror. Getting away was clearly not going to be easy. The lake monster grinned, revealing a row of pointy, green-stained teeth. Then it tore some needles from the tree and set them at Ben's feet, an offering to share. The monster nudged the needles closer. It nudged and nudged until Ben grabbed a handful of the needles and pretended to eat it. The monster nodded. Was it going to keep Ben the way a kid might keep a frog or a hamster? Maybe it was time to get some help. I'll be right back, Pearl hollered, and then she ran up the creaky dock as fast as she could. A thistle scraped Pearl's ankle as she hurried around the building, but the scratch didn't hurt half as much as the worry that was gnawing in her stomach. Now Ben would be added to the long list of people who thought of her as a troublemaker. How come no one ever talked about the good things she had done for the town? Like the time that she had picked up the litter along the highway, or the time that she had sold lemonade and gave the money to the Buttonville Senior Center. How come people always remembered the bad things, like the time she tried to make a pond behind the dollar store and it flooded into the street, or the time that she climbed onto the roof of the hardware store to collect a bird's nest and one of the roof tiles fell off and dented Mr. Wanamaker's new outdoor grill? But this event would be the worst of all. This one they would talk about forever. The day Pearl Petal took that nice boy, Ben Silverstein, down to the lake against the rules, and he got kidnapped by that big green monster. She raced around the corner of the hospital's front door. Yoo-hoo! Mrs. Mulberry called from outside the gate. I see you, Pearl Petal. Let us in. Without a word or a glance at Mrs. Mulberry, Pearl rushed inside, and then she closed and bolted the door behind her. As she stood in the empty lobby, her frantic breathing echoed off the walls. What should she do? What should she do? This time, the door to the identification room stood open. No one was inside. Where had Mr. Tabby gone? Surely he could help, but then he would know that Pearl had broken the rules, and he would probably tell Dr. Wu, and Dr. Wu would probably fire her. Pearl didn't want to lose the apprenticeship. The chance to work with imaginary creatures was the best thing that could have ever happened to her in her entire life. Could she figure out a way to rescue Ben without Mr. Tabby's help? Nothing came to mind. Not one thing. Pearl groaned. Dr. Wu might return from her emergency visit at any moment to find Ben stuck on the island. Time was wasting. If only Pearl could wish this all away. Wish it all away. She grinned. Of course, that's it! Somewhere in Dr. Wu's hospital for imaginary creatures, there was a new patient who granted wishes.